Hi, how you doing? It's me, your Void, and today we are talking TBRs. Yeah. Full disclosure, me and TBRs, we have a strained relationship. I make one every month, and then I redo it about 48 hours later. So, yeah. I'm going to make this video, but I make absolutely zero promises of sticking to the books I will mention in this here sphere bubble square of a screen. There is only one book. There's one book that I can promise will be read this month, and that is only because there is some sort of peer pressure going on to read this thing. I mean, technically there is not. This is still my own decision, and no one is actually forcing me to do shit, but speaking of books, here we are with the sorry excuse for discipline, right? Right. That are going to be read this month. Book. Singular. It's The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie, which is the third book in the first Law trilogy. And this is going to be read because something called the Catch Up Book Club is happening, hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books, and a bunch of other lovely people whose names I can't remember. And the live show for this book discussing this bad boy here is this month, so I'm going to be rereading this month. Not gonna lie, so far the first Law trilogy is pretty boring. I'm 2 books in and the characters are okay, I guess. In all seriousness, without the audiobook, I would have probably given up reading this thing about the third through the second book, maybe earlier. Audiobook performance is really great though. Can only recommend the audiobook. The performance is really great. But yeah, so far not a lot is happening. It's pretty boring. I also don't get why people say this is grimdark. There's way too much hope in here to be grimdark. I mean, yes, every one of these characters is a grayscale asshole, but that's not really what grimdark is about, is it? So, this is the one book that will definitely be read this month. Everything else you see in this video is optional and probably subject to change by tomorrow, probably. Book number 2 is Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. This one is an oldie. It was published in 2004. I believe it's actually the first book in a very long series. I don't know. This book is from my Twilight era of reading. This book happened when I was so addicted to the concept of vampires that I was reading absolutely everything that just had the vaguest mention of vampires in it. Now you might be wondering, the title is Dead Witch Walking. Where is the vampire in that? Well, first of all, see this? It's a bat. What are bats connected to? Correct. Vampires. In this book, we follow a witch, and she's a private detective, and her friend is a vampire. This witch with her friend the vampire, and there is a pixie involved, I believe. They are like private eyes, private detectives, and they are hunted by a gangster, and so they have to unveil his evil plans and save their own asses doing so. I don't know, the description is very vague. Given that this is from 2004, I'm expecting some rather cringe situations. 2004, 2005 was a very cringe era. Another chonker. No idea why I put it on my TBR. No idea why I want to read it, but I want to read it. I'm kind of in the mood to read this, so I'm going to read it. Possibly. Maybe. Hopefully. Speaking of vampires! Another book on my TBR that was actually on my TBR for last month as well, and I didn't switch it out, I just didn't get around to read it. Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. You might know her from wonderful works as Mexican Gothic, or Gods of, what was it, Jade and Shadow? Something like that. Haven't read any of those. Can we please appreciate this cover? Like, look at this. This is pretty. This is art. And no, this It's not Anubis, because that would be the wrong culture. This is actually Aztec vampires. Vampires! And we follow an Aztec bloodline vampire and a street kid, and they try to survive in Mexico City while they are hunted by the cops and narco vampires. That sounds interesting. Also has a cool encyclopedia of vampires from different cultures throughout the world in here, which is also kind of my jam. And best thing of all, she's not that long. She's pretty, she's witty, love to see it. Vampires! Next up we have The Lies of Locke Lamora, another chunky boy. And as you can see, I already started reading the bitch a while ago. This is a wonderful world. Like, the world building in this is so amazing, but the story is so dense that I had to put it away for a bit and then come back to it and then put it away for a bit. And now I'm coming back to it. This chunky, I'm like about 300 something pages into it, and we've only reached chapter 5. If there is one thing I hate, it's a chapter that never ends. We follow a group of thieves in this one. They call themselves the Gentleman Bastards, through a Venice-inspired world, or city at least, as they try to scam people out of a bunch of money. Eat the rich. But there's also some murder mystery going on. There's someone that calls himself the Grey King, and he's murdering thieves, like high-ranking thieves in this thief society. So problems arise from there, I guess. Hopefully I can get her locked and loaded and fired and hit and died by a headshot. What is that analogy? Hopefully I can finish the chonky this month. If not, I'm not going to be sad about it. I did, however, just acquire the audiobook for this one, and I had a short listen, and the performance is kind of good. So I hope that I will be able to get through him a bit faster. Then we have my last physical book for the month, which is Heartsick by Cain. This one is another pre-2010 book. This one is a thriller, a psycho thriller. In this one we follow Detective Archie Sheridan as he tries to solve the murder case of a serial murder while he's grappling with his own broken mind after he has been kidnapped by another serial killer who has a rather unhealthy obsession with him, and he kind of has an unhealthy obsession with her. This is a reread for me. I enjoyed this about 10 years ago. I enjoyed this when I read it the first time incredibly. That's not how you say words. I really like this book, and it has this wonderful trope of a broken detective. Like, I love me a good grumpy broken detective with so many issues in a trench coat. This one has that. Also, I'm just a sucker for a story where like a brilliant serial killer has to work with a detective in order to solve a case, and the mind games that ensue. Fuck yeah, I love that shit. If you have book recommendations, gimme. I need more broken cops in my life. She's not that big. I read the whole series when, like, not when it first came out. This was like 2007. Actually, I did read it when it first came out. This is also an arc, for those who wonder. This is actually an arc from 2004. Gonna reread some mind games, because I like that. And again, this is pre-2010. I'm expecting some very cringe parts of this book and parts that did not age well. We'll see where this is going. And then to close it all out, we have 2 ebooks, which are, on the one hand, Lore and Lust, which is a book by Karla and Nikole, and it's like a slow burn vampire romance thing. I don't know a lot about it, but it's vampires falling in love in a slow way, apparently. vampires. And the last book I'm going to be reading, hopefully, is going to be the third installment of Clio Evans's Creature Cafe, which is called A Little Lick of Lust. We love some alliteration here. Where we follow a minotaur who is going to the barista, who is a matchmaker for monsters, and said minotaur is going to be matched with a human, and things spiral out from there until we have enough spice to burn away every last thing that exists in your mouth, including your tongue, your whole throat thing, probably your intestines, and then on the way out, Clio Evans is the supreme lord, lady, entity, goddess. That's some words. Of monster smut. There is no holding back, neither on the monster side nor on the smut side of things. But it's really good. I have the first 5 installments of the Creature Cafe series. I have some physical books. I am hooked. I am a fan, and yeah, the things the people, the characters do in those novellas and books. So that's it. That's my TBR for July. Hopefully. We'll see how many of those books I'm actually going to read. The stack is intimidatingly large for my liking. I mean, look at it. It's bigger than my head. I mean, I am small, but this is definitely not small. I didn't do the math of how many pages that is. You know what? Take a guess what books I'm going to switch out by the end of the month. We'll see. And again, the last argument of Kings is the only constant this month. This will be done by the end of this month. Everything else is up for grabs. Take a guess what will be read, what won't. See you at the end of the month with something people like to call a wrap up, I guess. Maybe I'll just wrap you up in, I don't know, t-shirt. Okay, bye! Vampires!